get my 6. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the most awesomest homesteading channel on the entire surface of planet Earth that has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with homesteading. Homesteading off the grid. Got a beautiful, beautiful sunset here. My OCD just got me. Give me a second. Got a very beautiful sunset here in Central Virginia today. Hope you enjoy it. Up here at the family campground again. It's Memorial Day. I would say happy Memorial Day to you, but I did a live stream earlier on our Facebook page, Sick Twisted Humor, and I got blown up with people interacting while we were live and later in the comment section with watching the replay. Not supposed to say happy Memorial Day. Okay, well, I will anyway, because guess what? I served, I fought in combat, I earned the right to say whatever the hell I want to, so happy Memorial Day. Now, I understand it's not such a happy day for many folks. A lot of folks lost loved ones in conflict or in service. My heart goes out to you. Okay? I want to talk a little bit about Memorial Day and what it means to me. And I do honor... Listen, it's not about a 3-day weekend with, it's not about barbecues and binge drinking. It's about remembering those who gave the ultimate sacrifice, their lives, to defend freedom. To defend, and if you don't agree with what they fought for, to defend what they felt they were fighting for. Many of you served. I know there's a lot of veterans on here. I want to thank you for your service. That's another comment I made today that got me blown up in the comment section because there were a lot of people that said Memorial Day has nothing to do with veterans. That's Veterans Day. You shouldn't even mention veterans on Memorial Day. I disagree. Every day is Veterans Day, in my humble opinion. And that touches on something I'm going to talk about a little bit in this video. It's called veteran envy. That's one of two kind of like pop culture terms I actually created. Veteran envy, and I'm going to explain what that is later. And also, and I forgot to mention this about watching the background, and yes, I'm seeing movement up here right now as we speak, and it's not the wind, because if you'll notice, you're not seeing that anywhere else. We may not be alone right now. You got to watch the background of these videos, because you never know who or what may or may not show up. Potentially, Bigfoot Sasquatch. That is the other term that I have coined in pop culture. The cryptozoological entire field no longer refers to him, her, it, or they as Bigfoot or Sasquatch, but they're now referring to him, her, it, or they as Bigfoot Sasquatch because of me. Hey, YouTube's pretty much canceled me because I won't e-bag. I mean, yeah, you're seeing me on the video. Oh, they'll let me upload the video. Oh, absolutely, publish a video. They monetize video. It's just they don't notify my 321,000 subscribers. They have unsubscribed many of my subscribers, and they do this because they approached me a few years ago when I was making $15,000 to $20,000 a month. Said, man, you've done all this on your own, and we want to help you get to the next level. I'm like, great, what do we do? And they were like, e-bag. They wanted me to ask y'all for super chat. Send me money, of which they would take 65% and give me 35. Yeah, or maybe vice versa. Take 35, give me 65, but whatever. I didn't do it. I was like, I don't need to do this. I'm making more money than I can spend just from Google AdSense revenues. Well, guess what? Everything dropped. Guess they thought I'd come back and say, oh, please, might I have a lump of coal? Please, might I have another bowl of porridge? Please, might I have another opportunity? Now, guess what? I went back over to Facebook, reignited an old page I have over there that I let lay dormant for 5 years, and now make multiple times more money monthly there every month than I ever made here during my best months. So I ain't e-bagging. I can take care of me. I want you to use your money to take care of you. Okay? So what they do is they just suppress my views. Suppress my views. I don't care. So, this is kind of part of the story too. Gosh, that triggered a lot of people today on Facebook on that live show. because I haven't taken the price tag off my tumbler yet. I was going to do it before this video, but I didn't, because that's my way of saying this is how much I care that you care that the price tag is still on the tumbler. Okay. All right. So I want to thank my friend Gary, who gave me the Army hat years ago. He does not like UVA. I usually wear UVA hats. He doesn't like UVA because of a lot of the snobbery associated with alumnus and some of the locals. I don't care. I love UVA sports. I respect the college. Didn't go there, not a graduate, not an alumnus. I went to a little tiny state college in West Virginia nobody's ever heard of. But hey, I'm a UVA Cavaliers sports fan. We love going to the football games, basketball, baseball, like all of it. But I will wear this hat, on special occasions such as Memorial Day, Veterans Day, and then the tie. There's a lovely lady that follows this channel who handmade me this tie several years ago and sent it to me. So if you're watching, lovely lady, will you please put in the comment section, hey, it's me that made the tie. Thank you for the tie. I want to make sure it gets used. Now, once upon a time, I had a job that made me feel empty. I was a stockbroker for 8 years. I had to wear ties every day. Suits, I hated it. I love the fact that I almost forgot how to tie this because, well, this is my office now. So anyway, we're going to talk about some Memorial Day stuff, okay? We're going to talk about some veteran envy, but you probably saw the title, he's dead. Don't end up like this guy, whatever. I haven't really figured it out yet. But before I get into all that, I want to make you aware of something. This is kind of like a public service announcement. I love music, and there's certain bands I like, and Train is one of them. Perhaps you know of Train. They're probably most known for their song Drops of Jupiter. They won a Grammy for it. Now that she's back in the atmosphere with drops of Jupiter in her hair, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My voice is out of shape. I don't sound as good as Pat Monahan. When I was in the Philippines this winter, I was singing every night with the boys. We have a band over there. We're called 10 Octaves. It's because there's 10 of us in the band. And it's a flexible name because, see, the thing about bands is most people just don't show up for practice. So if only 4 of us were there that night, we would call ourselves 4 Octaves. It was a beautiful thing. But we were singing every night and dancing. Got a lot of videos on this channel of that. But I haven't been singing so much because I'm back in America, and all we do here is work. We don't sing. We don't dance. We just work. And I've been catching myself falling back into that trap, so I've got to break the cycle. I need to sing more. So anyway, Train. Charlie Collin, one of the founding members of the band, he played bass. He died recently. He was 58 years old. How did he die? He slipped and fell in a shower, and he died as a result of head trauma. No, you think, oh, one of them rock and roll guys, he must have been drunk. He must have been on drugs. No, these guys are class acts. He was not drinking. He was not on drugs. He was house sitting for a friend. It actually happened at his friend's house. He happened to slip in the bathtub, fall, and sustained injuries to his head that cost him his life. I want to tell you a few things about this because this is something that concerns me. I'm in my 50s now. I know. I don't look it. And of course, there's going to be some vertically challenged individuals who live under bridges come on here and say, 50, you look 60, Grandpa. You don't look good for your age. Jelly, jelly, jelly. Take that price tag, brah. Look at it. All right. So, that's been a concern of mine. We have a very old house. It was built in 1903. Anything modernish on it has been an extension. And we have a plan. It's about a 3 to 5 year plan. We plan to build a new house in our front field here on our property. We have plenty of property, 6 acres. And because we want to give that house to our son, Daniel. But we want a new house, smaller, 1 level, no stairs, but with a sleeping loft with very wide and not steep stairs going up to the loft. But so much because I want a larger bathroom. And my wife wants a more modern kitchen. She loves to cook. because I've been concerned about bathroom injuries. Harry Truman, used to be kind of a big history buff until I've kind of figured out through personal experiences, living overseas, fighting in the war, all these things, so many things I've kind of figured out and found out that we're taught in history. That's not just really so much how it happened. It's Soviet history, the history they want you to know. You know who writes history? Those who win wars. So, hey, that's us, right? But I found out so much of it just ain't true. But anyway, I like Harry Truman. I remember reading a big old biography on him called Truman many years ago. He was 98, I think. The way he died was he fell in the bathroom, hit his head on the basin, and he ended up dying in the hospital as a result of that. That guy would have lived to be 110 if it hadn't been for that. So here's why people fall in the bathrooms. I'm going to tell you some things that make sense that I already knew, and then some science that I learned from reading this article about Charlie Collin that I never knew about. It makes perfect sense, and I've changed the way I do things now, and I hope this might spur you to change the way you might be doing things. So, number one, most people's bathrooms are smaller, especially in comparison to the other rooms in the house. There's tight corners, tight, sharp edges, and slippery surfaces, wet floors, bath mats outside the tub might be slippery, especially if the floor gets wet and water goes underneath the bath mat. A slippery surface inside the tub or the shower. And then hard surfaces. Like if you do fall, man, you're going to hit porcelain. It's like you got the basin, the sink, you got a toilet. It's like you're not landing on pillows. So there's all that for one thing. But here's the science behind bathroom falls, especially in the shower, that I never knew of until I read this article about Charlie Collin. Because I'm 50, and I thought, well, I better get that new house built before I'm 60. Because once you're over 60, man, like bathroom falls are sending you to the ER, they're fatal. Get this, every year in America, 38,753 people a year go to the ER, emergency room, due to injuries sustained from falls in their bathrooms, who happen to be between the ages of 40 and 60. So it happens well before you're 60, and it's not because 40 is old. Here's the science behind it. Here's why it happens. Think about it. When do most of us take our showers? In the morning. Especially if you work, especially if you go to school, or if you're just going out to run errands that day. You want to feel fresh, wash the sleep off of you, so you take that shower. When do we do it? Well, maybe after we've had our coffee, but most of the times before we've eaten breakfast, right? So what that means is we're doing it when our blood sugar is low. We've just gone maybe as many as 12 or 15 hours without eating food. If we haven't eaten since dinner the day before, say we had dinner at 6 p.m. and we're taking a shower at 7 or 8, there's 12 or 13 hours, no food in our bellies, so our blood sugar's low, okay? So then we step into the shower and we douse our bodies with this hot water, okay, or at least very warm water. Well, what does that do? That makes our blood pressure rise. So we're in there with low blood sugar, but then our blood pressure jumps through the roof from the hot water. Then what do? We bend over to pick up a bottle of shampoo or body wash, and then we stand up real quick, and that, whoa, it's like free buzz, right? Gives us that head rush, and for that part of a second, we black out. How many times have you done that in the shower and you come to and you're grabbing the wall? That's when these things happen. That's when Charlie Collin, founding member of Train, bass player, fell. Like so many people, 38,756 a year. And unfortunately, he didn't survive the fall. It cost him his life. So here's what I do differently, because my routine is typically get up whenever. One of the things I do pride myself on since coming back from the Philippines, having spent my winter there, like for years, forever, I would get up at 4:30 to 5:30 a.m., do all this work. I don't need to do that. Not anymore. And so I started sleeping in the Philippines because it was a more relaxed atmosphere. It wasn't that go, make the man rich by working 80 hours a week for the man. And I don't work for the man. I haven't worked for the man in many years. I bowed out of that crap years ago. But I still had that mentality because I was brought up in that culture. So, man, I'll sleep until 8. I'll sleep until 9. Sometimes I'll sleep until 10. But whenever I get up, have my coffee, I will go out and train. I'll work out. I'm not training right now. I'm working out. Maybe it's a 30-minute long HIIT session, HIIT, or which is like a high impact endurance training type stuff, or like a circuit training, which is a lot of yoga folks know. Or I'll go out and I'll run 5 miles, or I'll bike 15 miles or 12 miles. Haven't eaten. Then I'll come in, and then I'll take my shower while my wife's cooking my breakfast for me, because she knows I get grumpy when I get hangry. And how many times have I been like, whoa, get that bottle of shampoo after a 12-mile bike ride or a 5-mile run, and I almost fall down, and I'm thinking, wow, I got to build that new house and get that bigger bathroom. You know what I started doing differently? I'll wake up now, have my coffee, do my workout. I don't want to call it training. There's a difference. Trust me. If I was training, I'd be 20 pounds lighter right now. Trained a couple of years ago. I might do it again. I don't know. I'll eat a banana as I drink my Gatorade, or I'll eat an apple. I'll eat some of my wife's adobo monique, which is peanuts, Filipino garlic adobo peanuts she makes, which is delicious. Many of you have had them. But I get something in my body to raise my blood sugar level, so I'm not as susceptible to those dizzy spells in the shower. So I really wanted to pass that on to you today, even though, it's Memorial Day, because I hope that knowledge might help somebody watching avoid injury or death from a bathroom fall. Next time before you take your morning shower, and especially if you've experienced these dizzy spells in the shower, just get a little bit of food in your belly first and wait 10 or 15 minutes and then take your shower. All right, so I want to thank every one of you watching this who has served in the military. Yes, you're a veteran, and yes, the people who suffer from veterans envy don't like me thanking veterans on Memorial Day, I guess. And to those of you who lost a loved one because of their service to the military, whether it's in the U.S., Canada, England, any of our allies, Australia, my heart goes out to you. I know this is not a day in which you need to hear, hey, be happy. It's a day of remembrance for those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. And here is a message that, despite some folks who suffer from veteran envy don't want me to tell or don't want me to deliver, I'm going to deliver, and this is delivered to my fellow veterans. Talk about it. But listen, I know we have to be careful about who we talk to. So I could state right now that I served. I got my Army hat on. I was in Iraq. I was a machine gunner. I was in Mosul 2008, 2009. It was Al-Qaeda in Iraq's last urban stronghold at the time. I was part of the surge. I helped protect the supply line. I made it home, and I learned quickly here's what happened. I made it home, and I didn't learn. What I found out was that if you were to mention that you served, there are so many people who will call you a liar. They will say, my granddad was in World War II and he never talked about it. So I don't think you really served. I don't think you were in Iraq. Or they'll say, my dad was in Vietnam and he never talked about it. I think you're lying. I don't think you were ever in the military. And at first, when that would happen, it was like, wow, where's that coming from? Who would claim to have served in the military when they actually hadn't? Well, then I started meeting people who would do just that. It's called stolen valor. And I wrote an entire novel based on the persona of an individual. It's several individuals. This isn't all just one guy or one girl, but it's just several lunatics, as I call them, who did. I ended up meeting a guy years after I'd returned from service and years after I'd gotten out of the military. It was here. It was one of my neighbors. If I were to mention something about, the Army, or back when I was in the Army, or he would say, oh yeah, it was the same when I was in the Navy. We had to deal with the same thing in the Navy, I was like, wow, you're in the Navy? It's like, yeah, but it was a long time ago. I'm like, well, what'd you do in the Navy? Oh, it was a long time ago. Well, I thought, well, he doesn't want to talk about it, so I'm not going to press him, because a lot of veterans don't like to talk about it. So this would happen every now and then, If I mentioned anything about military service, he'd talk about when he was in the Navy. Well, after I'd gotten to know this guy a little bit, about 6 months, I felt as if I'd kind of gotten to the point where I had permission to ask a little bit more. I felt like I was comfortable with this guy. He was comfortable with me. So I asked him about boot camp, which is what they call it in the Navy. We call it basic training in the Army, because I always understood that the Navy did their boot camp, up at like Lake Michigan on one of the Great Lakes. And I know the weather up there is terrible in the winter. So I asked the guy, when you went to basic training, did you have the pleasure of going up there and doing it in the summer? Or did you have the misfortune of going up there and doing it in the winter? He goes, well, I never went to basic training or boot camp or whatever. I was like, how's that possible? I was like, what'd you do? You do OCS in college, and so you got your commission when you graduated and you never had to go to boot camp? Or he says, well, something like that. And again, in my mind, I'm thinking, what do you mean something like that? Listen, the military is pretty cut and dry. There's a way of doing things. There's a system of doing things, and there's no something like that about it. It is what it is. It's very structured, right? So I pressed a little more. And he says, well, I was never actually really in the Navy. And I was like, but you're always talking about back when you were in the Navy this, back when you were in the Navy that, telling me you understand what I'm talking about from my Army days and being in Iraq because you were in the Navy. I mean, I kind of assumed this guy was in a foreign conflict somewhere, you know? He's like, well, I was in ROTC in college down there at UVA. He went to UVA, a couple of degrees from UVA. And my ROTC head instructor was a naval officer, so I identify as having served in the Navy. Listen, if you're a man and you want to identify as a woman, go for it. I fought to defend your right to do that. If you're a human being and you want to identify as a cat, you go for it. I fought for your right to do that too. But if you never served in the United States Armed Forces or the armed forces of any other nation out there and you want to identify as a veteran, you cannot do that, because I fought in service and you don't get that right. That's called stolen valor. And anybody who would lie about having served in the military when they didn't would lie about anything. So I immediately knew, no, I take that back. At first, I wanted to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. I thought, well, maybe he misspoke. Maybe I misheard him, but I don't think so. So there was an incident a couple months later where him and this other guy, one of his friends, they needed some help. They were loading something heavy onto a flatbed truck, or not, like a flatbed that was being pulled by a truck. And it was a 3-man job. They needed an extra set of hands. So they came over and said, hey, can you help us load this? I said, sure, not a problem. So I went over, we get this stuff loaded. I can't even remember what it was. And we wrap all the ropes and stuff around it. And it's time to tie it down. And this other guy, who I'd never met until that day, though ironically I had known his father, who had recently at that time passed away. So this guy has the rope ends and he tosses them to this guy I'm telling you about. And he says, here, you're in the Navy. You probably know all kinds of knots. You tie the knot. And I look at this guy, because clearly he's led this other guy to believe he was in the Navy as well. Well, the guy catches me looking at him. He puts his head down. He goes, oh, no, I was never actually in the Navy. I was just in ROTC in college. And the guy says, the friend says, what? I thought you were in the Navy. And then the guy says, we're going to need more rope than this. He was embarrassed, so he goes off to get more rope. And his friend looks at me and goes, I've known him for 20 years. And this whole time, I had been led to believe by him that he served in the Navy. I said, he did the same thing to me. He talked about being in the Navy. He was in the Navy, this, that, and the other. I said, and I think if I weren't here right now, he would probably say, yeah, I was in the Navy. Let me tie that knot. But since he's in the presence of an actual veteran and a combat veteran at that, he knows not to do that because he might get punched in the throat. And later at some point, I told him, I said, listen, I think it was later that day after his friend left, I said, I'm your neighbor. I'm not going to punch you in the throat, but you've got to stop going around telling people you served in the military when you didn't, because you're going to run into that one veteran who, when they find the truth, they're going to punch you in the throat. And of course, he had all these excuses. Oh no, you misunderstood. It was a misunderstanding. It wasn't a misunderstanding. The dude just flat out lied. So That's why I finally get. It's like I could never understand why, if I mentioned my service or talked about being a veteran, people are like, you know what? I don't believe you. I think you're lying. Because they've met guys like this guy lives, just over from me, who's a liar. And that one time he did it in front of his wife, and she swelled with pride as he talked about his Navy days. She's an accomplice. She aided and abetted his stolen valor. So it's disgusting. So anyway, so listen, my fellow veterans, I get it. So here's the deal. I'm going to tell non-veterans a truth you don't know. You say, oh, so-and-so but he never talked about it, so I think you're lying. They did talk about it, but they didn't talk about it with you. And the reason why is because of your reaction. They try to talk. I remember I told 2 or 3 war stories early in my days of early coming back. And I was told, and these were people who were close to me, and they said, you're stupid to have done it that way. You and your crew should have all had an Article 15. You're lucky you're not dead. I would have done it this way. And first of all, you don't know what you would have done if you're in that situation. You wouldn't know what you would do if you were there, whether it's in combat, knowing that anything you do over the next few seconds can either cost you your life or make sure you get home, or if that 16-year-old pregnant girl is your daughter. If you're not in that situation, you don't know what you do. So you can go around saying you'd have done this, you'd have done that, this is not right, this is wrong, until you're in that situation, and that changes everything. Okay? So what? I learned to not talk about it anymore. And I bottled this stuff up, and it drove me crazy. I was down and out in the Philippines for 6 years. It was just, I was a mess. But I finally found, my beautiful bride, Dearly, a.k.a. Giggly Girl, who gave me our wonderful son, Daniel. The two of them loved me back to life, gave me reason to live again, gave me ambition, inspiration, and that's why I have begun to achieve again and have accomplished what I've done since knowing them, being with her 15 years and being with him 13 years now, to give us this incredible life. I had purpose again because of them. They've never judged me. But listen, I got a buddy right now that I think's struggling a little bit. He's a veteran, and he's not talking to anybody about some stuff. And so here, very, very soon, I'm going to be spending some time with him to talk about it. He's part of a very close friend group of mine. There's 4 of us. There's 5 of us. We're all combat veterans. We know we can't go out there and just talk to anybody about it. And we know if we go to the VA, the answer is going to be, oh, here, take these pills. Oh, here, take these pills. I've been there. I've done that. At one point, I was on 8 different prescribed medications from the VA. I was a nutcase. I didn't know my own name. That's not the answer. The answer is talking about it with somebody who's not going to judge you, with somebody who's not going to call you a liar, with somebody who's not going to tell you how they would have done it if they were in that situation, but with somebody who can relate because they were in that situation and can look at you and say, you know what, man, that's nuts. All I can say is I'm glad you made it out of that, because I was in a similar situation. I'm glad I made it out of that. And then they share their stuff with you, and then you all feel better at the end of it, Several times a year, me and these guys and one woman who's got multiple combat tours under her belt will sit around this campfire you see behind me and just talk about these things. And we always feel so much better after we do. Sometimes I'll call them. I'll say, I'm not feeling so good. Can we go for a walk? And we'll go walk around through trails in the woods and just talk about it and get it out. And after that walk, I'm good to go for 6 months. 6 months later, I need to talk to them again. So when you hear people say, Granddaddy was in World War II, Dad was in Vietnam, they never talked about it. The part they leave out is that, when Granddaddy and Daddy, who never talked about it, put the business end of a shotgun or a handgun or some other firearm in their mouth and checked out. And it's because they never talked about it. So if you're a veteran and you got to talk about it, you don't look at the folks who weren't there, and this veteran envy thing, here's where it comes from. They wish they had served. They get older, or for some reason they didn't serve. It's okay. Nobody's judging them, but they get a little bit older in life and they're like, man, I wish I'd have done that. I wish I'd have served. Now, they love the idea of supporting the troops and supporting the vets, but the individual soldiers and the individual veterans, screw those guys. They want to make sure, I had one tell me one time, he says, I want you to make sure you understand you didn't fight for my freedoms. You were over there fighting for oil. You were fighting for my gas prices. That's all you were fighting for. Okay. And he brought it up, not me. But man, he loves the vets. Support the vets. Support the vets. They'll get the bumper sticker and put it on the car. But as an individual veteran, man, those guys aren't safe to be around. And so veterans, but listen, those aren't the only people out there. Remember how when we were in the military, we had battle buddies? We never went anywhere on post, and especially in the combat zone, without a battle buddy. I mean, you didn't go to the latrine by yourself, because you might be in there sitting on that toilet and a mortar hits a toilet. Somebody's got to know where you are so they can say, hey, help, Crazy Lake just got bombed in the crapper, It's the same thing once we're back. There's 22 veterans a day choosing to take their own lives, and that's 22 too many. And I used to be a Veterans Affairs correspondent for some major online publications, mainstream media outlets. I wrote about that stuff till I was blue in the face. And what I found through my research was two things. Number one, what do they call them? There was a certain medication, diazepines. Diazepine, that's part of the word. It's a medication, and I was on it, and I got off of it. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a pharmacist, but benzodiazepines, what they do is they eliminate. Every living creature has a desire to live. You see all this grass around me? If there's a leaf on the grass, that blade of grass has a desire to grow through that leaf of grass to sustain its life. Every living creature, when it will fight till the end to sustain its life. Human beings were the same way. The benzodiazepines is a class of pharmaceuticals that takes away that natural desire to fight for your life. So when those suicidal thoughts enter your mind, that tendency to say, no, that's crazy, I'm going to fight to the end to live, that's not there anymore. An alarming number, as in the overwhelming majority of the veterans who have chosen to take their own lives, were on benzodiazepines. So there's that. And then number two, they're just not talking about it. They're not talking about it. They don't have that battle buddy they can go to and say, it's been 15 years, but I miss those kids I lost because of my deployment. Wife took them across state lines, some of us across country lines in other nations. And, sometimes I think about it, it's kind of painful, and I want to talk to you about it. And they don't have that battle buddy to say, let me hear it, man. Let it out, brother. And so that builds. And especially if you're on a substance that makes you suppress your own desire to fight to the death to live, it doesn't end well. It doesn't end well. So, yeah, it's Memorial Day, but I do need to reach out there and talk to my fellow veterans to give you this message. And you a-holes out there, like the maggot who lives over here, who would go around and claim to have served in the U.S. Armed Forces when you didn't, stop doing that, because that just makes it hard for those of us who did. If you do not have a DD-214, you are not a veteran. If you were in ROTC, yet you never made the leap and served in the military, you are not a veteran. Stop lying, because you're costing people their lives. That's blood on your hands. Because when there are those who did serve, try to talk to somebody about it, they're called a liar, and they clam up and they shut up and they lock down and they don't let it out. I hope you got something out of this. There's help out there, people. Okay, seek it out. You got to know somebody. If not, look up the 800 number suicide hotline. Call a stranger and talk to them. They're trained at doing what they do, and they do it well. But reach out and ask for help, okay? Happy Memorial Day. See you for more next time.